Hi again, this is part two of the live session that I'm now recording. So, yeah, we had part one that I recorded, restored yesterday evening, and now we're going to move to part two. It's on memory and perspective this month. We're in November. So, part one, we were collecting data, trying to think back about one space, one place, and seeing through a free flow remembering from easy doodling with the floor plan to slightly more complex thinking of elements, trying to make them appear in 3D with basic understanding of perspective, and then seeing if that was triggering some memories of that time, of different timeline maybe linked to that space. And we ended up playing with different point of view around our scene, around our floor plan, whether it was a map for a street or place or an inside room with definite space. So we played with placing the camera in different position and try to rehearse the view we could get from that. Again, using our perspective, this time 2 point perspective seems to be usually the key element. Although, as I mentioned in the first recorded session at the beginning of the month and the PDF, we can play with adding a third point perspective if we want to accentuate height and that feeling of most of vertigo. So, for instance, that could be if you're thinking of an outside space, maybe it was a specific cathedral you saw or a tree, and you remember it feeling quite small in comparison. So, you could try to emulate that feeling by adding a third point perspective, making everything looks as if it's getting distorted away from you. Especially, like for instance, I'll be drawing from my childhood bedroom, and I could have chosen to think of very early memories and try to represent that distortion, being a small, tiny person, tiny human, into a room that at the time would have felt bigger. But most of the time, using just 2 points perspective is plenty to represent a space that we saw, and it's a lot already to play with. So, um, yeah, tonight, so memory and perspective, that's what we do. And from yesterday, from the first part that I filmed yesterday, from the first part, I'm preserving my floor plan. So I ended up selecting one. You know, I said my childhood bedroom had multiple layout, so I ended up picking one, picking a camera angle represented here. So if you know if that is the door to my bedroom, I'm placing the camera just to the right of that door, looking into that far corner over there. So I'll keep that next to me because that's quite handy. From that first view, I had a quick drawing of the rehearsed view I was saying, with a bed over there, a shelf, another shelf. And here you can see, I'll put it in orange, it's that double arrow pointing inwards that I'm referring to when I'm thinking about 2 point perspective. Although my bedroom had that slightly under the roof um, wall that was broken on one side, so my arrow is matching that distortion, but hopefully that's still easy enough for me to read through it. So I'll keep those two next to me. And what I got from part one was also remembering key elements contained here in my bedroom. So what's coming to my mind, the bed that was there that I can find in my view, that wooden shelf that had that kind of cross at the back, I think, maybe even cross at the front, to be honest, because the cross is what I remember mostly from that piece of furniture. So that would be here in my view. I could also remember the wallpaper, the teddies that were there at some point. So I might, just make a list of the things, whether it's drawn or even just written. So when I go and move on to my fuller view, to my more resolved painting, I don't have to keep remembering, or I'm also not risking to forget anything major. So yeah, a quick list. That's very handy. It's like doing a bit of research before starting a drawing. And yeah, again, because when I'll be painting soon on my nice piece of paper, I know I'll already be confronted with a lot of things to think about. The paint handling, the tone, the value, the color, if I want to put some. That's already a lot to think about. So if I can prepare myself and have a few things rehearsed and noted on the side, that's much easier. So I'll just move that to the top, place them in my view, and yeah, present my piece of paper I'll be working on today. It's slightly bigger than the format of a sketchbook. What I've been thinking is that I might just pretend it's all a bit smaller so it fits nicely at the end, so I can cut around and reframe it, crop it. But who knows, maybe I'll feel inspired to go a bit beyond the edges, and this way I'm giving myself like margin either side to be flexible with my image. I really often like to do that. When I create a painting, I'm always encouraging you to go and paint to the edges, not have something floating in space. So to think about the whole image. But while I can do that here, I'll be thinking about that whole image. I also want to feel quite free to change my mind or expand beyond the boundaries of it. So yeah, usually I recommend having a picture in a picture so you can have that bit of margin. Let's go. Hopefully you're with me with that. Feel free to pause anytime. Feel free to take it at your own pace. But in that second part, so we will be developing one view of what we remembered yesterday. And now it's all about both finding ways to find a nice process that make that big task manageable. So we see step by step how we can break down picture making to find our way into it. But also, hopefully, as we do it, more memories come, and then we can have that invitation that here we're creating a framework anchored in a space that existed, a space that we visited, to see, yeah, which more like fleeting memories can want to come and overlap on it. To start with, so before I'm complicating anything in my mind with thinking about a memory, thinking about a fleeting moment, my first aim is to create that foundation, create that space. So personally, I'll be using a bit of acrylic paint. You can see I've put just primary colors and white, which is already a lot. Maybe I'll start by focusing on a tonal painting. So feel free to go with a monochrome, like it could be black and white, it could be blue and white, red and white, you decide. But yeah, just don't forget that painting is like juggling. We try to balance a lot at once, but we just want to go to the maximum of our capacity and try to not go beyond. So if at any point you feel like, oh my god, maybe tackling color at the same time was a bit much, then just put it to the side for now. Color can always come later on. Yeah, I'm using acrylic, I'm using paper, and so I have a bit of water to my side here and a rag in my hand and just one brush that I'll choose this one, which is fairly like reasonably big for the space I'm working on. It will give me control, like it's small enough to give me control, but it's also big enough to prevent me from going too much into detail. So anyway, let's go. To start with, I always feel I do like a bit of drawing. I do like to anchor myself with a bit of lines. And what I want to do in that first step is to recreate that first rehearsed view I got. So for that, you could use a color pencil, you could use something faint if you want to use a drawing material. But what I do, I just get one of the pigment quite diluted. I'll try the red, hoping that you can see it well enough. So yeah, I'm just making that first few marks. So I'm gonna think about my double arrow first, which again mine is broken because of the way the wall was under the roof over there. But I'm just drawing a few lines. I'm making it a bit more opaque than I would usually, just so it shows on the camera. But you could go more diluted to make it fainter if you rather. Although you'll be piling up different colors on top, different washes. So eventually, it doesn't matter too much whether you're making marks or not. But yeah, I'm just trying to come back to the first rehearsed version I had done and putting a few marks. As you can see, I'm using some understanding of perspective, but also not trying to be too precise or complicated about it. And that's up to you. If you rather have it quite right, then it's mostly a matter of taking your time with it and going step by step and adjusting as you go. But I know I don't care too much, so I'll just place elements. So that would have been the shelf. That is the bed coming here. So I think I'm only going to see a part of the bed, maybe the blanket going there. So yeah, at this stage, as you saw, I'm using my diluted paint tracing lines, but also in places I ended up filling it in to get rid of some of the lines I didn't want. For instance, here, the one that's see-through of the bed, I'm putting a wash because in that moment am I finding that visually I read it a bit better if I'm then blocking it as a silhouette, as a shape. So you see, you can stick with line, you can mix lines and tone and shape. And the one thing I think I will care about in that painting I'm doing is that I remember a particular thing I did. I think I did it just once. I took the lid of a cardboard storage box and put it upside down with like string and pinned over there. So it was like somehow attached to the wall, became a shelf, a very light shelf. And on that shelf, I put my teddy for one Christmas when we went away. We went to visit my family. So as I was gone, I put some teddies over there. And I remember I was getting old enough to stop believing a bit in magic, sadly. But I did put biscuits with them, thinking, okay, that's my one last try. If they eat it, I would be quite happy. But yeah, I was serious enough to know that it was very unlikely, but I took the risk and I hoped they would eat the biscuit. They didn't, but that's okay. And yeah, that would have been, I guess, the light, ceiling light from over there. And maybe that was a bit lower, so I can also change my mind, adjust my marks. And the other thing that I remember quite a lot about my bedroom was the wallpaper. There was how do you say a fresque in French for sure, maybe a frieze in English. So yeah, I can hint at the fact that there was that midsection with a repetitive motif all around, and then lower there was some dotted wallpaper, and above I think it was just white. So yeah, put that on. As you can see here, I'm not so sure about what perspective is doing, so I'm just guessing a few things and trying to work it out, just like that. Maybe the floor goes lower, and that's kind of it. That's what I would do for now. So hopefully you can do that for your own space. It's it's not necessarily easy. I think it comes with practice, like all things. But hopefully you can see how you can take things one step at a time. Here I'm not thinking about my color at the end. I'm not thinking about the lighting situation. I'm not thinking too much yet about what I want to represent or that fleeting moment I want to think about. I knew the teddy on the shelf would be a key element, so it's in. But the rest is just about finding a few marks, finding a few anchors. So that's step one of mapping things out. And although I said you could do it with color pencil and then erase and adjust, and that would be fine. Color pencil will end up slightly like covered with the paint, so it could work really nicely. But at the same time, if you feel like doing like I did, getting some paint and having it diluted, I think it's a really nice way to already be in that language. So instead of working that with the drawing material and then swapping to paint, it's quite nice, yeah, to get used to do everything with paint if you feel you can find your joy in that. So see how it goes. The next step to my view is to bring that into an atmosphere and again a word that's lived in. So to do that, again, before I'm thinking about colors or anything like that, which is to me beautiful, I love colors, but it's like cherry on the cake, it's decorating. I want to stick with my foundation. So here I want to turn on the light and try to work out what would happen if I had lighting in that situation. So I did place a light source over there, and I want to find a way to work out roughly what the shadow will go, where the darker moments will be. So maybe before I do that on my big one, I could just once again take my little rehearsed view over there and try to think if my light, let's put the light as a yellow blob over there. So if my light was here, then I might think a bit like I did with the camera, trying to have that, the camera was stemming from there and spreading in that direction. The light is stemming from here, and I can paint it. I can say, yeah, like a shower somehow. The light will be falling first on my shelf, and that shelf would create a shadow underneath. So here I can be quite binary in my decision. Think, let's create that shadow. So I'm taking darker pigments just under my shelf because that part is unlit. Then the light will continue and hit the bed because all of that plane of the bed is facing toward the light, so all of that will be quite lit. I know the bed would also cast a shadow under itself, so I can have that here, and maybe I'll continue thinking of the light, how it goes there. It would hit that top shelf quite directly, but that means the shelf will also cast a shadow under itself, and that second shelf even more of a shadow. I could try it like that, and then I have the slightly more gray area for which I might take a pigment that's neither the yellow of my light, neither the blue of my shadow, and think, for instance, the rest of the ceiling is probably not receiving as much light here, and that wall that's angled, it's not really angled toward the light, so it might not be receiving it, while this one might be receiving a bit more. Same over there, might not be receiving too much light. So I'm just trying to work that out small. And you see me, this time I'm using 2 brushes. I could be using a few more just to make it easy for me to move things around. I have 1 brush, that's my yellow, that's my light, and the rest is doing the rest of the work. So I'm guessing the floor will be catching some light. Maybe not as strongly as that first shelf, but there will be some light hitting the floor because the floor is a plane again that's like facing directly toward the light. That side of the bed won't be as dark as the cast shadow, but will be darker than the light. So I could have it darken there. And kind of voila, that's to me already quite helpful. You know, I could go a bit further in that, so you can try different things. I hope it makes sense. But I just try to work out something with the light, and you know, it's artificial. Like the actual ceiling light was probably more centered. There would have been a window to the right, so maybe more light. but that to me is plenty to work with, and that's also maybe to the max of what I could manage in that moment. So try to find a light and something that's easy enough, and then we'll be talking more about, light, shadow, color, all of that in the upcoming months. So also, I just want to grab it back. Also, if it doesn't make sense, just don't worry at all. That's already quite complex. But see what you can play with. I think you can surprise yourself also to be like, oh, actually, I can. If I'm breaking it down, I can see more than I thought. And in a way, let me see if I have paper. What I'm encouraging you to think for any plane. So I've been talking about the word plane, which I'm referring to the sides of each geometry. So the top plane of the bed is the one I'm lying on, and then there's a side plane of the bed when it breaks to the side here, and that would be the lower, like, under plane, which I'm not seeing. And that way I'm thinking of it in 3D. I'm thinking of it as a volume, and I can think of which one is facing the light. So one way that I find handy is to think of a staircase. Let's do a little staircase here. So those are the few stairs. And some beautiful staircase. And if I'm going back to my idea that yellow is light, let's say the light is coming from above. Most of the time it's coming from above because of ceiling light or because of the sun. So it's always the easiest one to work with. So I'm knowing that all the planes that are facing directly up toward the light will be lit. So I can go with my yellow. And then here I can decide that because my light, I put it slightly to the right of my image here, then the plane that would be in this image the furthest away from receiving light are the one to the side here, because the light is top right and those planes are on the side toward the left, so they're very unlikely to be receiving much light. So I can get them to be the darkest part. And then I have the plane that are neither facing the light directly, neither really turning away from it. So they're somewhere half dark, which I could be setting here. So here, as you can see, I'm not using color for what they mean in terms of color. I'm more using them for how light or how dark they are, and to really easily distinguish my different planes and remember them. So voila, that would be, my lovely staircase. But that, to me, if I can work that out and make it quite believable, then in theory, this is just a slightly more complex version. But everything breaks down to that. Even when we be drawing portrait or drawing object, everything is done to being a complex staircase in a way. I'll say more about that as we go. But so I'll place that here as a reminder. So what I've explored in small, I just want to explore in big now. And the only difficulty may be that here, if I want to also be giving information of color, I would have to keep that in a part of my mind and overlay it with information of color. But maybe for now, I don't think I want to go through that complexity, so I might just go with something quite neutral color-wise, and then I'll see later whether I do add accents of color at times. Let's see. Oh yeah, when I did it here to work out my picture, I started by painting the light, that yellowness, because I found it easy. I thought, let's think of the light as a tangible thing, like a shower of light. And I could be doing the same here, so I could be taking my yellow, thinking the light is here, and again, going over there. That's totally fine, totally fair. But often, another approach that I go through when I paint, and I'll say it often, I say it a lot next month when we work on still life and that observation. Here, instead of putting actually the light, because the light is quite close to my paper, that light yellow is not far off from the white of my paper. Instead of that, I often rather go with painting what's missing from my picture at the moment. And because the paper was white, then the light wasn't cruelly missing just yet. The paper could feel like light. So what's actually missing from my paper at the minute is darkness, is information of shadow, of darkness. So actually, instead of painting my lights, often I like painting my dark, painting my shadow. So I'll show you, but it's just doing the same, just reversed. It's basically the same. So I'm once again diluting my paint quite a lot, so I don't feel like too committed to anything I do. Let's see, yeah, maybe even more. And I'm mixing something quite neutral by mixing together a bit of blue, a bit of red, a bit of yellow, just so I don't have anything too blue, too red, or too yellow. So I think, yeah, I'll just refer to what I have. And instead, this time of painting the light, I'm painting what's around it. I'm painting the dark, keeping it quite pale, quite watery. Again, that's mostly so I don't feel like I committed to anything and I can change my mind quite easily. But eventually I will be darkening it all. So let's see how that goes. And remember, like, we here this month doing there's a lot of thinking going on. We have to work things out. But we always, as we're thinking hard and then painting it, then what's taking over is our gut feeling, and that we can trust quite well. So that's why also here I'm keen to just make marks and put paint down, because it's all nice to think about things and be clever about them, but while I haven't painted it, it's hard to know whether I'm in the right or not. So yeah, I'm keen to embrace going for it and filling my page with a bit of color, a bit of paint, knowing that I can always change my mind later on, but it will help for now. So I just went over the whole image and added some darkness, and maybe I'll just do a slightly more opaque version to go where I know there is like an actual shadow, cast shadow, meaning here the bed is actually blocking the view of what's underneath, so nothing could be really as dark as that. This is one of the darkest moments. I'm enjoying showing you how loose I like to go when I start to create something, and I hope that's enjoyable and kind of encouraging and freeing. Although you don't have to, like maybe you're someone who likes something more precise, and that's really fine. Like you don't have to force yourself to be loose in a way that doesn't feel right. But I think often when we're exploring our creative voice, it's nice to see that we can take the time and be meticulous. We can also be quick and not over worry about an idea of being right, being wrong. I think it's great, yeah, to be able to feel at ease in both places. Because sometimes it's great to take the time when I paint. If I'm doing a commission, I like to go more slowly at times. But if I'm doing a sketch, if I'm just working out an idea, then I find it really precious to not overthink how precise it is. So as you see, now I'm going over and over again, adding more washes, slightly like not matching exactly where I had thought the light or shadow were going first time, because I'm still working things out. And because I wasn't sure I got it right first time, then might as well try something else and see if it feels better or it doesn't. And I'll keep going through like back and forth of exploring my image. And each round I'm trying to be quite quick, to not overthink about one object. I'm trying to not obsess about that element over another one, but rather get my mind, my attention over the whole picture and rotating, because I want to keep things fresh. I want everything to evolve at the same pace, so I can then decide whether I'm going the right direction or not. And also it helps me not getting attached to something and resolving it beautifully, only to realize that it was great but out of proportion with the breast, for instance. And the ladies over there, somehow. Voila, maybe at this point I would want to wash and clean my brush and think again about the light, actually. And maybe this time I want to go back with my yellow and have it in a few places where I know it will actually hit the object. Maybe the floor, instead of going for just yellow, I'll mix something that feels maybe a bit more brown, just to hint at the fact that the flooring was wooden. So this is how I'm slowly introducing an idea of color. It's just when an element feels a bit more obvious, I might just do the quick mixing, just to shift it slightly in a direction or another. But again, this is when you don't have to. You can also keep it monochrome for this time. That's plenty. And in that, what I've just said about starting to introduce color, maybe that's indeed a moment where I can think, okay, that piece of furniture was indeed wooden, so let's go as well and make it feel wooden by mixing a brown. I know the top shelf is lit, so I might leave it more yellow than the rest, more warm, and darken the other shelves that are now falling into the shadow. But yeah, giving an impression of wood, of brownness, slowly by a layer. Same there would have been wood around the bed, so I might hint at that. And now I've thought about where to put a bit of brown. Now I can think about a different color. For instance, I can think about that cardboard makeshift shelf for my teddy. I'm no longer sure what color it was, but somehow green is coming, so I'll just make it green. And maybe in a way, in terms of how I decide to design my picture, I'm thinking, oh, green is not a color that I remember in many other places in my bedroom, so maybe I'll just keep the green for that part. I'll find a little more green here and there, like that dotted wallpaper. I think the dots were green, so I might just echo it there. Oop. And yeah, I hope it helps to see me create that image, seeing how I'm moving to some details slowly, and I'm adding information without trying to do everything at once. So it's very much a layer over the next, over the next. I worked out the foundation of where things were situated by getting the lines and the silhouette of my furniture. Then I tried to think about the lighting situation, trying to keep it simple. And here, as you can see, like I don't know exactly. I don't know in a scientific way where the light is falling on everything. If I really wanted to find out, I could look at a room that I can access now that feels similar and observe how the light is falling on objects. I could also create a small maquette that would replicate it and lit it from above and learn from it. But in the meantime, I feel quite at peace with not knowing too much. So yeah, personally, I'm really happy with that. So I might just continue and start playing with adding a bit of color, one section at a time, So the way I do it is that I think in my head about a new color that's not yet present here, like that blue, that lighter blue was not yet present, so I'm just going with that one color at a time. So instead of thinking about resolving my whole bed, I'm thinking about resolving some blue in my picture. And if I have the blue of the light, then I'll get another blue for that side of the bed that's turning away from the light and therefore is darker. So I just had a lighter blue and a darker blue, and voila, I'm getting a blue blanket on my bed, blue cover. And either here I'm thinking, oh, there more blue in the rest of the picture. Could be thinking that the light shade is blue, so I might put that here for now. Again, is there more blue? Maybe there was a bit of blue in the wallpaper, on the wallpaper strip. So I might just, that feels, I've put some blue, feels a bit strong, so I just put more white on it and do that. So yeah, that feels more right. So blue, the wallpaper had some complexity. I'm not painting that complexity, I'm just painting the patches of color that I seem to remember. And that was some sky on it. It was a scenery with a lady farming, I think gardening, some green of the grass, some blue of the sky. She had some pink, so I just put those colors and in a way to hint at it without stressing about whether it was just right or not. So yeah, putting that down. Don't know if you can see exactly, but I'm adding this detail within the light, within the shower of light I've created. I'm not bothering yet, or maybe ever, to add those details within the shadow. And I'll talk again more about that in upcoming session, but I just want to hint at the fact that you might have had this experience if you're looking in real life. If you're looking at something and spotting details in the light, when you're focusing your eyes into the light, then you will notice that you're not getting as much information from the shadow, and vice versa. If you're focusing into the shadow, then you're not getting as much detail into the light. Like the eye can only focus on one thing at a time, and that's what our cameras do when we try to, with our phone, take a picture, and maybe we click into the light and it adjusts to it, and therefore it does darken and simplify the darkness, or vice versa. So yeah, in the same way a camera would need to choose light over shadow or shadow over light, then our eyes does that. And therefore that's why when I paint, I'm also trying to stay true to that, to not paint the shadow and the light to the same level of complexity. I'm trying to stay true to the fact that if we're thinking about one deeply, we can't be seeing and thinking about the rest as deeply. So I might just gently hint at that in the shadow, but not describe it as much as I did there. And I might keep my marks more faint in the shadow, and so on and so on. So yeah, basically here, I've been talking for 40 minutes. The idea is that I would just go over and continue and continue and continue, and try to keep moving from one place to the next. And maybe, as I said, that part for me with the teddies on the shelf is very much why I picked that viewpoint, why I decided to paint this moment, because I remember there was something sweet about starting to be old enough to stop believing in magic, but wanted to give it one more go. So I think ideally, as I continue this painting, that would be my focal point. That would be where maybe I decide to have a bit more definition, a bit more resolution, but also it doesn't need to be the realistic um, photographic memory that I have, because anyway, there is no one that memory is in movement, is fainted, is blurred. So there's no such thing as a good memory of it that I have left. So I might just want to hint at the fact that there was this getting older and questioning magic, but also wanting to still believe in it. So the painting I would end up doing might hint at that, bring magical elements to it, somehow bring that tension of a realistic space in which some magic can still happen. But that is already like quite a complex project that I wouldn't necessarily know how to resolve just now. So instead of waiting to know how I can paint that, I'm painting the space, and I trust that eventually I will have the idea as I paint it. It's just through different layers of trying different things. So that's why I like to start somewhere, start anywhere, and see what happens, because that's the only way in movement that we can start having that idea, having that right idea. And also maybe because I'm exploring a lot in that picture and changing my mind and so on, it might be that at some point that paper reached some kind of saturation and doesn't want to be overworked anymore. So that would have to become, if I want to continue, that would become the first version of it, and I would probably need to start a second image, a second version, and explore further on that. And that's okay. Again, like, don't wait until you know exactly where you're going to start, but also be ready to start again if you need to, or to do a few versions, a few iteration. Because here I feel like I've worked out a lot of answers already to that space that only existed in my memory not long ago. So I would just continue, and the more I've worked and rehearsed it, the quicker I can go to that stage next time. And therefore, the quicker I can go and explore something that's beyond just that collecting of memory. Voila, I think I will pause for that recording soon, although it's hard to stop when we paint. But yeah, I'll pause soon. As I mentioned, please feel free to send me your question, your thoughts, and your exploration by send me pictures, send me recordings, either privately or to the group. I'd love to see. And what we can do, so I'll put a poll in the WhatsApp group so we decide when to have that live session again. But I know it's not necessarily that you'll be all about able to access it, and I'm again sorry for that. So what I'm suggesting, because I think I just want to talk to you basically, and to be able to offer feedback if you'd like that. So we could also schedule individually, like more of a 10-15 minute chat, so you can show me what you've created and tell me if there is anything that was not clicking, or if you have any question, and I could like just offer some feedback and guidance directly. That I would love that very much. so don't hesitate if you want that. And also, as I mentioned, if you're not able to be present for the next for the rescheduled live session, let me know and I'll just reimburse. So you're paying like you're accessing the pre-recorded content and not the full session that I was not able to deliver yesterday. And thanks again for your understanding on it all. I really can't wait to be live creating together. Voila, for now, I hope that was helpful, and we'll be in touch. Bye, have a lovely time creating.